Hello and welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm Ed Rabyd, a former pastor turned atheist, now compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like or dislike the video as you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like, because the purpose of this channel is educational in regards to atheist and deconversion issues and any issues related to those issues. A hearty shout out to the Rabyd Nation. Join the nation by hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel in a more tangible way, hit the join button, and your membership options for citizenship in the Rabyd Nation will be presented to you. Today I want to continue on my series in the case against God's existence. This is part 14, and I'm going to give 3 inductive arguments. My disclaimer, as always, at the beginning of this is I am agnostic atheist, but I'm examining the arguments that make the claim, that the actual claim that there is no God, for myself. It's actually more of a initial examination and an overview. I'm planning on deep diving this a little bit later, all these arguments a little bit later, and getting a little bit more details and getting a little closer. But right now I'm just kind of looking at all of them and seeing if there's any validity to some of them, or some are more valid than others. And today I'm doing 3 inductive arguments. Now, the difference between deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning is the direction in which you go. When you're doing deduction, you go from the general to more specific things, whereas in inductive things, you take something specific and you move to a general conclusion. So it's just really the direction that the reasoning is going. And so inductive reasonings against gods are looking at specific things and then making more of a general observation about the universe or God in this case. And so what we're looking at these 3 inductive arguments is the idea that we're looking at something specific that has happened, or some definition or something like that, and then drawing a more general conclusion about God. We'll see how this works. But there are 3 of these. The atheist-existential argument, which is there is no reason to believe, like, the idea of a perfect sentient being is a contradiction in terms, because sentience kind of implies lack of perfection. This is kind of a definitional argument, and it really is one of those things where you kind of like look at it and go, okay, they're making certain definitional claims about God, and the idea of something being sentient and complete are contradictions, okay? And they make this understanding of our definition of what it means to be a complete and what it means to be sentient, and go, well, but a sentient person isn't really complete. They are famous for their expression, that which is complete is also dead. Now, I'm going to be honest, I don't really completely understand where they're going with this argument, and it's something that I want to look at a little bit closer and get a better grasp on. But at the same time is kind of just there, and I want to lay it out as much as I understand it. The no reason argument is another inductive argument against the existence of God that asks the question, that basically poses the point of an omniscient, omnipotent being would not have any reason to act in any way. The ideas of God needs to or wants to wants and desires are really subjectively human. And an omnipotent, omniscient being wouldn't have those, okay? They wouldn't have any of those kind of desires. So if they're complete in and of themselves, why would any being at that point want to create anything, okay? And, they wouldn't have any of this want or need thing in it, okay? Basically saying, hey, this being that you postulated as God just doesn't really compute, it just doesn't make sense, because they wouldn't have any need to create anything. They wouldn't have a need to have a relationship with anybody. Why would they need that or want that? And besides needs and wants, that idea is very subjectively human, okay? It's a human idea, not necessarily a God idea. And then there's the historical induction argument, which says, that since we have concluded that most theistic religions throughout history, from the ancient Egyptians to Greeks all the way up to the present day, and their gods and goddesses and all that stuff have ultimately been regarded as incorrect. All theistic religions, including contemporary ones, are therefore most also likely untrue and correct by induction. One of the famous quotations is by Stephen Roberts. He says, "I contend that we are both atheists. I just believe in one fewer God than you do. When you understand why you dismiss all of the other possible gods, you will understand why I dismiss yours." This is probably the more famous argument of saying, listen, we're getting truer to the true number of gods all the time. I think this one hits a little bit more home for me because it's one of the arguments, one of the reasoning that I followed when I did comparative religions in my church. I did a class on comparative religions where I looked at all the religions of the world. My whole goal at that time was just to promote a better understanding of the religions and to kind of show why my religion was better than everybody else's. The problem was once I got done showing all the problems with the other religions and why we reasoned against them, I felt it was only fair to do my own, and found that my own religion, Christianity, had as many flaws, if not more in some ways, than many of the others. And so if I could dismiss them as all false for those flaws, why wasn't I dismissing Christianity for those flaws? And that was where I was at a stage in my own deconversion coming out of Christianity, that I was finding more problems with the religion than it was solutions. And so, this is an argument that I think I have made at times. So I think with all of them, though, and first of all, there's a lot of problems with induction in the first place, because going from specific to general can be considered a logical fallacy if it's done a certain way. And so you have to kind of justify your steps all the way along the way of why you're going from specific to general. But there's also the fact that each one of these is like the first argument, the existential argument, is just kind of like, well, it's about definitions. And if I don't agree with your definitions, then, or I think there are different definitions, I can kind of counter that one. The no reason argument, I hear a lot of theists go, well, you couldn't know what the mind of God is. My counter to that usually is, well, then you don't know either, so you can't make any claims about what God would want either. And so when the preacher gets up to and say God wants to have a relationship with you, you don't know that either. Okay, if you're going to say I don't know what reasons God would do something, then you can't know what reasons God would do something either. And that kind of, I don't know, this argument kind of like, both sides kind of just counter each other. It's more of a counterbalance. And then the historical induction argument is one I've used, and I think there's some validity to it. I think, somebody might argue, yeah, we have all these religions, but one of them is eventually going to show themselves to be true based on evidence and reason, or something to that effect. They haven't done so far, but here we are. My evaluation as to their value of proving the premise that there is no God, I don't know that any of them actually do that. I think they're a good counterpoint, much like the subjective arguments for against the existence of God. They're kind of a counter to what other people say. Like, the first one could say, well, this is kind of like, the first one is more of like a definitional thing where we could say that doesn't make sense. It's kind of like some of the other arguments that we've seen. We're saying, well, these concepts don't really go together because they don't make sense together. The no reason argument, I think, has some value in the fact that definitionally, if you make a truly complete, perfect being, why would the whole idea of subjective human wants and needs is a pretty good counter argument to some of the things the other Christians say. And then the historical induction argument has always been around. It has a good, strong foundation, but it's not really an argument against God per se as all human belief about God. That there might still be a system of belief about God that might be true, we just haven't found it yet. Okay, and so we're just dismissing all the other gods because we've dismissed all the rest of them already. I don't know if that necessarily is a silver bullet. It's one of the stronger ones of the inductive arguments, but I don't think that, once again, we don't have a silver bullet here that says God does not exist. And so, I don't know, I think these inductive arguments kind of counter, it's kind of, once again, like the subjective arguments is kind of counterpoint. You're going back and forth about definitions. You're going back and forth about what God would want or need. Or you're also going back, well, we've dismissed all these other gods, and you agree with me that all these other gods are false. For the same reason I dismiss all these other gods, I dismiss yours. Okay, I think that's a pretty valid, powerful point, but it doesn't necessarily prove the non-existence of God. It just proves that all human concepts of God might be false. Okay, you can kind of set that level of doubt in it, and I think that works there. So I don't know. Once again, I think we're kind of left looking for the the silver bullet that says there is no God. And so I'm still pretty comfortable at being an agnostic atheist, but I think I'll talk more about that in my next video, where I'm going to kind of wrap this series up. And people are asking me where I'm going next. I'm actually going to be reacting to a book that lists many arguments against the existence of God, a little bit more deep dive, and I'm going to be reading that book and then redoing some of this. And people go, well, why aren't you doing the arguments for the existence of God at this point? And it's be like, I've already done those several times. It's time to give, some fair treatment to the other side of the argument. And then at some point in these Thursday discussions, I think we'll find our way to maybe a point counterpoint about the existence of God. So, but for this one, I'm going to wrap this one up. These have been 3 inductive arguments for the existence of God, against the existence of God, I should say. And this is how it's kind of been laid out. So hopefully this has been kind of helpful in understanding that there is a case against God's existence. I'll wrap this series up next week with some final thoughts. Some of the arguments I think are stronger and weaker, and we'll move on from there. But thanks for stopping by. I appreciate every like, share, and subscribe. You guys are great. It's been a pretty interesting roller coaster ride the last couple months, and it's been steady incline for a lot of things. So thank you very much. Appreciate all of you. And as always, live your best life. You only get one go around, and then it's over. And so you don't want to really waste your time, your money, your talent, your treasure on the trappings of religion and faith, which are a dead end. But instead, give all those things to yourself, and building up yourself, the people you love and care for, and making this a better world. You'll be a happier person if you do. Trust me, I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.